If you've been waiting for Resident Evil to truly recapture that perfect balance of fear, tension, and action, then Resident Evil 9 Requiem might just be the game you've been hoping for. From the moment I booted it up, it's clear this isn't just another sequel. It is a celebration of everything the series has given us over the decades, refined into one of the most complete survival horror experiences Capcom has ever made. Welcome back to a series I haven't added to in a long time. This is my under 10-minute review series, and today we have Resident Evil Requiem. In my review videos, I always start with performance, and I always say a game does us no good if it doesn't run well. I have a 4070 Super, and I run at 1440p, and was also streaming this series, which could have a little impact on the performance, but I ran everything on high settings, but also had upscaling mode on high as well. And to start my playthrough, I had path tracing on full blast. And for over half of the game, it ran so smooth, buttery smooth, no issues at all. However, I got to a new area about mid-game and I noticed some stutters and a lot of lag going on. Well, it turns out it was the path tracing. If I turned path tracing off but used ray tracing, the issues were still there. I noticed some flickering going on some of the in-game objects as well, but after turning ray tracing completely off, I never experienced the issue again. So with these issues in mind, I cannot give the performance a high rating when it comes to the review. Because for no reason, and out of nowhere, the game decides to have issues with this path tracing. I ran over half the game with no issues. It didn't make sense. So overall, performance was good, but those frustrating issues with path tracing caused my performance review to fall. Overall, my thoughts on performance were mid. It was okay, it got the job done, but they need to work on that path tracing. Up next, let's talk about gameplay, mechanics, and the combat. First off, let's talk about the length of the game. A lot of people were upset that the game was so short for a $70 game. I'm kind of in that boat too. But a typical playthrough runs most players around 12 to 16 hours maybe. But it really depends on how much you explore. And because I explore a lot and I take my time, it took me around 20 hours to complete this game. But the gameplay, mechanics, and combat, especially the new combat features, is where this game really shines. Capcom took the DNA of several different Resident Evil eras and they combined them, kind of meshed them and fused them together. It's the tight survival horror of RE7 mixed with the atmosphere and the puzzles of Resident Evil 2 Remake. And then you got the action and the combat flow of Resident Evil 4. And somehow they did all that and they actually made it work. You can even switch between first person and third person perspectives, which was freaking cool if you ask me. It genuinely changes how the game feels moment to moment. Grace's section are slower, they're more methodical, which emphasizes survival, and stealth, and resource management. And this is why I chose to leave it at default and play her sections in first person mode. While playing with her, you have limited ammo, you have inventory management to worry about, and you have to be stealthy and evasive. Meanwhile, you have Leon's segment, which is way more aggressive. There's bigger fights, boss encounters, more freedom in combat, and this just absolutely keeps the game from ever feeling stale, ever bogging down. Just when the tension starts to overwhelm you, when you're Grace, you get to swap right over to Leon and have an action-packed sequence coming up, which is freaking awesome, man. The combat in Resident Evil features a dual system. You have Leon sections, which are really fast and aggressive. They're brutal action with heavy gunplay. He can even use melee weapons like Hatchet that they've added. Now, it's a little weird when you get to swinging it. It's kind of like this weird combo. I don't know. I struggle with it a little bit. It's still a lot of fun. And then there's the chainsaw, bro. When I first picked up that chainsaw and I was actually able to use it against these zombies, it is crazy. It's such a cool mechanic. And then you have Grace's gameplay, which relies heavily on stealth. And utilizing this little mechanic I figured out, I would shoot a zombie a couple times and then I was able to push them and they would fall down and easily take them down. That was Grace's go-to move for me. I mean, it was the OP move for Grace. You got the parrying system, which is very much like Resident Evil 4. It's capable of almost deflecting all incoming attacks. The violence and the gore in this game, I'm telling you guys, if you don't like violence and gore and blood, you do not want to play this game because it is extremely brutal. So much blood. There's decapitations and gore, so for the younger generation, you better watch out. Next, let's talk about the visuals, the sound, and the presentation of this next level atmosphere. This game is beautiful. It is absolutely stunning to look at. I remember walking down the street when I first went into this game, and this was the part in the game where I had path tracing on full blast. And I walk up to a car and there's the reflections and it's just gorgeous, man. And as I walk down the street and I'm talking to my chat and I'm like, God, this game is beautiful. The lighting and the shadows and the environment detail all work together to create this sense of unease, especially when you're playing with Grace. Every hallway feels alive and every sound matters. It pulls you deeper into the experience and makes every moment more immersive, just like a game should look, sound, and feel. Last but not least, let's talk about the story. This is a story that feels personal and psychological. Resident Evil 9 Requiem isn't just another Outbreak story. It's one of the most psychological and disturbing entries in the entire series. By the end of this game, the threat isn't just the virus. It's what it does to the human mind. Trust me, the story is amazing. I never want to talk too much about the story because of spoilers, but I do want to bring up a few things. People ask, well, Pledge, is it scary? I wouldn't necessarily call it scary, but the way Resident Evil 9 Requiem delivers the horror experience may not be the way you're thinking. It does have some classic jump scares throughout the game, but it's more about tense situations, the unknown, what's around the corner. It brings back that old Resident Evil vibe of, do I really want to open this door? Do I want to know what's behind this door? So for me, it wasn't necessarily scary. It was just kind of spooky in a sense, you know? The story introduces a brand new character, Grace Ashcroft. She is an office FBI agent who is filled with fear, anxiety, doubt. She is human. She is vulnerable and very inexperienced in the field. And of course, you have the fan favorite, the GOAT himself, Leon, returning. He is all action. He's very experienced. He is a hardened soldier, and he's about fed up with all this mess. He is ready to end it once and for all. The contrast between the two characters keeps the story interesting throughout the entire game. It takes us back to the beginning where it all started. We see the plot of early Resident Evil characters revealed, the reason behind the decisions, and what goals they may have. And it's told in a beautiful way. It kept me guessing the entire time. And it wasn't what I was thinking. There is a huge surprise. The pacing of the story is really slow. It's a slow burn, but that's kind of awesome, man, because it builds suspicion and uncertainty throughout the game. And in a game like this, I believe, in my opinion, that is exactly how you tell a story. So guys, the story in this game was top notch. For me, a longtime Resident Evil fan, such a good way to tell a story. So that's all I'm going to talk about story-wise because of spoilers. I don't want to spoil anything for you guys, but you got to take my word, man. This story is amazing. This is my final thoughts on Resident Evil 9 Requiem. This game is excellent. It really elevated the series. If they were to never make another Resident Evil game, I believe this would be a good one to end on. But hopefully, they'll make more. It did all the right things that you want out of a Resident Evil game. There was some fear, resource management, tension. The atmosphere was great. A lot of action. If you're a longtime Resident Evil fan, this is a must play. And if you're new to the series, you could start with this one, but I highly recommend you start with some of the older games, maybe Resident Evil 2 Remake, Resident Evil 4, just to get a grip on what's going on. Having played all the Resident Evil main games 0 through 9 and Code Veronica, this ranks near the top. Resident Evil 1 will always be my favorite, but this one sits somewhere between second and fourth, up there with Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 4. Resident Evil 9 Requiem is survival horror at its best. I highly recommend this game, whether you're new to the series, but definitely if you're a longtime fan. This wraps up my under 10-minute review of Resident Evil Requiem. Thank you guys for watching. If this helps you out, hit that like button. Maybe share it with a friend if they're on the fence about the game. Let me know what you think about this video in the comments as well. And if you would like to, hit that subscribe button for me. It really helps out the channel. You guys are amazing. Continue to shine. Love you guys. And I'll see you in the next video.